Hello and welcome to another episode of Coding Secrets. Today I'm going to do things a little different and I'm going to look at a SEGA Genesis or SEGA MegaDrive demo produced by a demo group called Titan. This is called OverDrive and it has lots of pretty impressive effects. So I thought, Coding Secrets, I'll have a look at them, see if I can figure out how they're done, break them down, and we'll see how we do. So, okay, let's see how we get on. This is a loading screen, nothing particularly clever going on so far, but let's get on with it. Okay, so this part, we can pause. I've got some emulator here doing stuff. And let me just take you around the emulator. This is the window. This I can turn on and off background layers and sprites so we can see the different layers that are made up. And there's also a tool called the VDP debugger where we can look at palettes, memory, stuff like that. So you can see in here, this piece, this is video memory. You can see the Titan logo here. And you can also see the little bits of static and stuff. So I think they've got graphics to do this kind of static effect. They're making most of the effect here by using horizontal scroll offsets on the screen. So if we can slow this down actually, if I go into slow mode like this, we unpause, you can see how each screen is sort of just shifting the image around and scrolling. And then the bits of noise, let me pause again, these bits of noise, I think they're just, you can see the character maps in here. I think they're just adding noise to the screen just to make the effect even more like, you know, TV tuning issues, just to make it look fun. This demo was made in 2013, 14, I think, sometime around then. So it's about 6-7 years old, just for reference. Okay, let's put it back to full screen speed and see what else we've got. And then you can see it's sort of flashing here. I'll go back into slow for this bit. And again, you know, it's flashing. You can see in video RAM. If we scroll down, you can see this. If we pick the right palettes and things, you can see the logo colors. All the different colors for the different aspects. I'm not sure. Maybe this is just a delay in the palette here, but it looks like this is different colors than that. I don't think they're doing anything particularly special. I think that's just literally two images. The Titan logo here. You can swap to the palette. You can see the Titan logo in the Sega style, and then this kind of reddish logo here. But at this point where I've paused it, it is kind of red. Let's see if we can make it run slowly and see. Oh, the palette, you can see there, the palette changed when that came on. So that's how they're doing. They're obviously downloading a new palette, so you can see that's the logo there. So yeah, pretty simple part this, but this is just the beginning of it. You can see here, if I turn off the different backgrounds, you can see here, we can see what the different screens are doing. So you've kind of got this corruption and distortion on one screen, and then this kind of red logo on the other, which they mix together. I don't think they're using any sprites at this point. Okay, let's go back to full screen, full speed, and see what's next. Go. Okay, let me just rerun this bit. I've got keys to rerun sections. I'll shut the debugger so it runs full speed. So here, nice sort of rotating logo. Looks interesting. If we pause it, again, look into memory, you can see there's the logo and the palette it uses here. And all they're doing for this is you have the ability really, in simple terms on the machine to kind of, and they'll use this for lots of effects. So you can kind of pick which line of the display you want to appear where. So the way a screen display works is it scans down in lines from left to right very quickly and build the screen. And on this kind of hardware, you can tell it which line effectively you want to display. So imagine you've got an image, let's just say like there. You could say, well, I want to display this first line, I want to skip the next line, and then I want to, you know, and if you skipped every other line, you'd end up with a logo that was half the size. So that's kind of what they're doing. They just they've got one image in memory, and they're just changing all the time the number of lines and where they want, and you flip it upside down by telling it to display the lines, you know, in reverse order from top to bottom. Again, if we slow it down, you can see all this going on. You can kind of see all it's doing is it's just skipping horizontal lines to crush the logo. There's no distortion in this axis, in the in the x-axis, just in the y, by fetching different lines. So they're just fetching one line, and so on. All right, so that's, again, this is all pretty simple, but they'll get an awful lot more complex as we move on. Next bit, they kind of drop in a cartridge into a SEGA Genesis. Again, this is all pretty basic. You can see here there's graphic in video RAM for the SEGA Genesis image. Nice image. I think it's just basic 16 color image though. I don't think there's anything particularly trick going on there. It's possible that the sprite, that the cartridge with sprites. I can slow this down. We can see if I turn off backgrounds what happens. Yeah, you see when I turn on the sprites, you get the cartridge. So it's just the cartridge is sprites. Okay, let's close this again. Go back to full speed. Okay. Next section. All right, so this is where it starts getting an awful lot cooler and trickier. I'll just let this run through so you can kind of see the effect in all its glory, which is a lovely kind of spinning, rotating image. We can rerun that section, I think. There we go. So let's pause and see if we can figure out what's going on. Let's have a look at memory again. So in memory, you've kind of got the remains. Well, I think, so this bunch of stuff here is the graphics you're seeing. So I would imagine, let's slow this down and see if I can stop it at a particular point. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to, but let's just see if it rolls back the other way. Looks like it's going to just keep rolling. But that's fine. I mean, so what they have effectively is they have a full picture of no Nintendo inside, stored in video RAM. You can see these are all the graphics for it. Let's play a little faster. And then they have these kind of stripes in graphics and memory. They have OverDrive as a logo there. Oh, here you go. This is kind of what I was looking for. So this is what they have in memory. Is really an undistorted logo, one for each side, I imagine, filling video RAM, which is all fine. And then what they do, I believe, because there's a kind of a clue in the demo, they kind of talk, if we let it roll back to the first, so that's side 1, let's say, that's side 2, that's side 3, no Nintendo inside. Here, with their Titan logo, they mention blast processing. And so I think what they're actually doing here is, again, I talked about earlier that you can pick a line from your image to squash it, which is what was happening on the original logo just before, where you could pick which line to display. What I think they're doing here is they're blasting away, maybe using a DMA transfer, which is a really fast way of copying memory, maybe doing it with the processor, I'm not sure. Maybe doing it with interrupts. You've got horizontal and vertical interrupts. Horizontal interrupt means you can tell it where on a given line in the X direction to trigger something. You could say when the raster beam, so like I said before, the screen's drawn in raster beams, when it gets halfway across, it can do something. So it could maybe change the palette here, and then the rest of the line would be green. That's a horizontal interrupt. Vertical interrupt is when it gets to a certain point down the screen, you could interrupt something. So maybe there, the rest of the screen could be green. What I think they're doing is potentially using horizontal interrupts. And what they're doing, let's just let this roll on a little further, is I think they're coming along and at a certain point they're saying display this horizontal line here. So they're using a horizontal interrupt. So all the way across, probably, you know, what are we looking at? Maybe 32 times on each line. They're telling it to fetch a different line of the image, or you know, a different horizontal line. So it's very similar to how they crushed. You see what's happening here. If you take a given slice, let's cover this up here, let's say, and let's just watch this one bit at the start. Let's go full speed and let's let it run, and I can re-trigger. So if we're looking just at this bit, it looks like the other one. We're kind of squashing, you see, you're just squashing the screen, stretching using the same trick as that other logo before. But I think what they're doing is using horizontal interrupts. So once they've done it for one, they can then do it for the next bit, the next bit, the next, and ripple across to get this kind of staggered effect. So again, let's just see if we can, so it's that effect, but done using horizontal interrupts to cause it to happen in strips like that and get the roll. That's my best guess at it. There are ways. On the Pugsy first boss fight with I think Polly the Parrot on the Pugsy Sega Genesis game I made, there is a sort of a horizontal scroll and a vertical scroll. I did a kind of a rotation effect, but I don't think that's what they're doing now. It had that same jagged kind of look. Maybe I'll put in a little clip here to show you that. Similar kind of effect, but I don't think that's what they're doing. I think using some sort of horizontal interrupts, or potentially just DMA blasting the data in a timed way to do that effect. But it's a fun effect. It's nice. It looked simple at first, but it's actually more complex than that. All right, let's let it go and see what's next. Very nice. Okay, this effect, simple. Sprites. You'll probably find, if you count them, there's 80 of these objects, which is the most sprites that the Sega Genesis can do. If we pick a palette, we can see here all the different frames. There's probably, I don't know, we could probably count them if we went through frame by frame. You know, there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's probably 16. If these are 16 pixels square when at their biggest, there's 16 frames of animation, which they'll store in video RAM, and then all they're doing, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're doing some nice 3D maths to figure out their position, but basically that's what they're doing, is they're just drawing these as sprites. But it gets a little more fun in a second, because the next part of this section, again, 3D maths do this, but what's happening, and it's not that noticeable until you notice it, which sounds silly, but when the spark comes on the screen, and again, let's slow this down so we can get a better look at what's going on. We can see, this again is all sprites, the spark is drawn with sprites, but what you can see here is there's like a reflection in the spheres that are above the spark, and then the ones below, you can kind of see it here too, not in the bottom. So they're kind of doing, it's almost like, it looks like they're doing some sort of ray traced effect. You can see when the spark goes, this will disappear and this edge here will disappear. Here we go, I think it's about to disappear. There it goes, and you can see the lighting's gone. And then if we run it at full speed a bit further, you see, same thing happening. And then if we go the final part, which is here, Titan, you can see the shine of the Titan logo reflected in the bottom of all these spheres, but on the tops are the ones below it. He's like, wow, it's ray tracing, you know, and even here, maybe this is in the sides of them here. I don't think it's ray tracing. I think if we look in the debugger again, we can see with our palette, I think you can see these are all the different sizes for these balls. I think there's less sizes. I think these balls don't get as big as the other ones. So maybe there's 8 different sizes, maybe 16, and then they store different graphics for like where it's at the bottom, where it's at the top, maybe where it's in the middle, and then they just pick based on how close these spheres are to the line, which sprite graphic to draw. Let's slow this down again so it doesn't disappear and let it run. We can turn off the backgrounds so you can see that everything is sprites, and then the logo is in the middle. That's interesting. Maybe, okay, well that makes sense. Okay, so I've just noticed something in doing this. It looks like background B might actually be the spark, which would make sense, because that avoids the sprite issues. So let's see when the spark comes on again, and see whether it's actually drawn in the background layer. If it does come back on again, which I hope it does. Maybe speed this up again. Be here all day. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so here's the graphic again. And I'm going to turn off background B. Yeah, it disappears. If I turn on background B, it comes back. Okay, so it's actually drawn in the background layer, which is interesting because that's reasonably hard to do because these are character tiles, 8x8 tiles, and as you see, they move up and down. So they must be doing something pretty interesting with the background layer to get that kind of effect to move. So, oh, you can see here, you see these graphics? So these graphics they look like the graphics for the sparks, and I bet if a spark comes on screen, we can see these they look like the same graphics. And then they changed the palette to make the sparks brighten up and darken. This top palette, I think, is the spark palette. You can see the colors come in there. And also the reflections. So the pixels that make up these reflections, again, they can change the palette and it'll make them look more realistic again as well. See there, they've changed the palette so to reflect the brights. Really nice attention to detail, really nice effect. Interesting they're using the background layer instead of sprites. I guess it means they got more spheres running around. And I guess they use animation frames here in memory to make this move. Makes sense. All right, let's look at the next section. All right, so this is just, okay. Now this is an effect that's kind of similar to something I did. Again, I'll drop in the video clip here if I can find it, of a fire effect that I did quite recently, but based on a fire effect I did back in the early 90s on the SEGA Genesis. So what they've got going on here, and again, I'll slow it down so we can see more what's going on, is they're using the character map screen. So the SEGA Genesis has a screen made of 8x8 characters, and you have a map to say where those 8x8 characters go. If we have a look in memory, we can see here the graphics that they use to make up these backgrounds. If we turn off the various layers, so the heart is made of sprites, that's fine. And we've got the two background layers here. One background is just using colors here for this plasma effect, and the other background is drawing these kind of characters over the top to give the effect. So there's some nice maths going on to generate this map, but the way they do this is, because you're basically using the characters, you're effectively only having to calculate maths for a 40 by 28 or 40 by 24 character screen. So you're only doing a couple hundred calculations for this, which makes it possible on the SEGA Genesis. And then, you know, you're representing your colors, because you don't have a load of colors. You make it look more interesting by having two layers like this and then using different graphics based on what palette you want. What's interesting here is they seem to have lots of duplicated graphics in memory. You've got this triangular shape here, and you've got what looks like probably 16 of them in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah, 16 in a row of each of the graphics. And it's the same all the way down with all these graphics that they're using to build the display. They're using these square ones to do the background A, to do the background B. So they're using these squares, and background A uses these. The reason they're repeated, which is a waste of memory you would think, is probably the math they're using to calculate all this is, there's probably some accuracy in the maths that, means that if the numbers between 1 and 16 draw this graphic, and then 17 to 32 draw this graphic. I found this with the fire, that to keep some precision in what you're doing, you don't have enough colors and shapes, and so they're effectively duplicating these shapes to give more precision. It effectively kind of gives you maybe 16 fractions, like decimal fractions in the maths, to be able to pick out which one to use. I'm not sure I'm being very clear about it, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going on there, because I can't think of any other reason why they would need to use all these graphics. Let's have a look and see what the next effect is. Let's put it back to full speed. Let's go. Again, nice effect there. I mean, they're all nice effects. Okay, this fella looks spectacular. I'll just let it run through so you can see the effect. Really interesting. Looks like polygons and lighting and all kinds of stuff going on. Amazing. What I'm going to do, I think I can rerun this effect. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Let me pause it this time. Okay, now this is an old 16-bit era trick. I've seen this effect on various machines, Commodore Amiga, you probably Commodore 64 as well. What I think they're doing is they have in memory, I don't know if we'll be able to see it in memory. We'll have a look and see. Oh, here you go, look. See all these graphics here. Let's look further down. I'm not sure how much is low. Memory has all kinds of stuff. The sprite tables, display lists, all kinds of things in memory. But I think what they've got, and I think you can kind of see it here, is they store a 1 pixel thin line. So again, remember this kind of horizontal lines. So first of all, let's slow this down and let's show you what's on each background. So you can see this is background A, has these pieces on, and this is background B, and this is probably the simpler way to show it. So what they've done is they've stored in memory a single pixel deep line. So imagine one line here, an animation of this shape starting sort of here and doing, you can almost imagine each of these lines as a different frame of animation of it doing a whole rotation. So it starts here, and each line, imagine, is a different frame of animation of it rotating to here and then back in. So all you're storing is a picture about, let's say, 128 pixels tall and maybe 80 wide. So not a huge amount of memory. Not frames, but that's the whole image. And then what they're doing is they're deciding for each horizontal line which frame of animation to use. So if they want this line here to be a solid bar all the way to the bottom, they just use that one line and repeat it on the next line down. If they want it to kind of rotate like this, they just pick a different frame all the way down. If they want it to happen quicker, they skip every other line. So here is like, let's say this is taking every line of the animation down. When they get to here, they take every other line of the animation to continue to here. And so they can, by changing exactly how to fetch each line, let's speed this up a little more. Let's go like 50%. So there, you can see they're repeating these frames. But if we wait for it to stretch there, you see here, they're fetching this same line of animation here multiple times to stretch it. In fact, you can see here, this is just a better example. They're just using the same line to do that. And so by having a 1 pixel high, 80 pixel wide rotation animation of this line doing its rotation from here to here and back again, they can then decide which horizontal line to fetch and do all manner of amazing effects with it, which is where you get all these weird twists and turns and everything else. But again, they're not, you can see video RAM isn't changing, they're just deciding which lines to fetch. And they do that in a similar way with a different animation for these front 3 lines. And then this is just a window on the side to print that graphic. And so let's run it full speed again. Get rid of this to let it, there we go. And it looks amazing. But it's literally just picking which horizontal line to display. So they've got to make 224 decisions on which line to display on 2 different backgrounds and get this amazing looking effect. Wow. Okay. Well, look, what are we in? 20 odd minutes into this. Okay. I think, I'll have to make another video to look at this effect and others. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the Titan demo. And let me know in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I'll try and do part 2 soon if you enjoyed it. All right, that's all from me for this episode of Coding Secrets. Goodbye.